Welcome to Futureworks, a podcast dedicated to the conversation around innovation within the workforce space. We share research, inspiration, and a glimpse into what we're building and learning here at Aspect through conversations with leaders, case studies, and a whole lot of curiosity. We explore what it takes to reinvent solutions within the workforce industry, and we are so happy to be here. I'm Gillian.
And I'm Michelle, and we're your hosts, guiding you through raw and honest dialogue about what's happening in the world of work, and most importantly, how we can contribute to making it better. Before we get started with our season, we have to say welcome back to Gillian, who went and had the most incredible and adorable baby in the world. We missed you. We missed your presence. I missed seeing you in Slack. I missed doing this with you. So I'm happy to see you. I'm happy you're here.
I am so happy to be back, and I'm very happy to have our first episode of this season be with Kelly from our team, which we'll talk about in a sec. But I'm just, it was a great time. Sal's a treat, and this conversation we're about to have is very relevant, but it's going to be very hard for Michelle and I to be hosts of this podcast and not talk about like the impact having children and being mothers has on how we show up at work. Like, it's just part of our story. So to have done the first season pregnant, was kind of a nice little journey, and here we are. It's just part of the hustle.
Yes. A podcast baby and a human baby. You did.
We birthed, 2 births last year.
Well,
exactly.
I'm excited to introduce our guest. I met Kelly in a totally different work world. We would schedule a meeting to talk about like our marketing work. And then we always spend a pretty significant amount of time talking about parenting and how challenging it was, how wonderful it was, and that balance between that we both really loved our families, but we both really loved to work. And it felt like this kinship because it was the first time ever I had met another person that kind of felt that same way. So it was so great to find that in Kelly. We're going to fast forward to today, where I get to watch Kelly excel in her leadership here at Aspect, where she brings a team of 30 creative minds, which is incredible, to consistently bring thoughtful excitement to all things Aspect. Because whenever I try to tell people what I do at Aspect, I see people's like eyes glaze over. But Kelly and her team always bring Aspect to life with both heart and thoughtfulness, which I think is an incredible testament to your genius, Kelly. So welcome to Futureworks.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So we'll start with just a quick icebreaker. If you were going to take us to, I'll say 3 of your favorite spots in the world, because you have traveled all over, where would you take us? Money's no object.
Definitely Italy. I'd have to say the coast somewhere, either probably the Amalfi Coast or Sicily, which is another great part of Italy. Hawaii is my second favorite. Loved Hawaii. Third, I can't think of a third, because it's like I just have really 2 places that stand out. I tell everyone like those 2 places. Yeah.
You would double down.
I would double down. Yeah.
I'm in for that. Let's go on this trip.
Let's just make it extra long and nicer hotel. If you're not picking 3, we get to stay at a nicer hotel.
Yes.
Exactly.
Kelly, let's start with the big picture. What brought you into this world of creative work and marketing? Why are you here today?
Yeah, so it's a funny story, because I know a lot of people don't have like one defining moment for them, but I really do. I have this one defining moment in my life, and I can remember thinking, that's what I want to do. And that's what I did, and that's what I'm doing. So I was about 15 years old in high school, and you're getting to that age where the teachers are starting to talk to you about what you want to do when you leave school. I had no idea. And we were in this big auditorium hall, and they brought in this motivational speaker, and he was talking for a while about, what you want to do with your life and where you can go. And then he played this video, and I don't like recall exactly what the video said. I just remember like watching it and getting goosebumps and thinking like, wow, like this is incredible. Like just, that feeling. I'm getting goosebumps now talking about it.
Yeah.
But it's like this, like what they have managed to do with this video, I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want to create videos like that give people goosebumps.
That's awesome.
The rest is history, I guess. But yeah, very single defining moment for me in high school. And that's what I ended up doing.
It happened at the way end of high school for
Yeah.
you to come to the realization, but that is awesome. It's so nice to be able to pinpoint it like that.
Mm.
Fast forwarding to now that you are kind of doing that thing that you wanted to do in high school, what do you love about what you get to do now?
So I love being able to tell stories, like listen to someone speak, like, and then help them come up with a story to tell it, or come up with a story completely on my own. And I think also be creative in how we tell those stories. Really trying to evoke like an emotional response or a connection to the story. Uh, bringing our product to life in a way, like through a story that, just feels human. That's really what I love the most about what we do here at Aspect, and working with Gillian, of course.
Yes, for the listeners, I'm on Kelly's team and I'm very grateful for that. I'm curious, why is storytelling hard? It's a buzzword in marketing.
Mm.
And there's people that use it that should use it, and there's people that use it that shouldn't. And I'm curious, like, what warrants good storytelling in marketing?
I think it's something that can cut through the noise.
Hmm.
Like, I'm online a lot. I think we're on our laptops or our phones all day, right? We're constantly and utterly overwhelmed with information, right? It's like apps and algorithms and ads, right? I think storytelling and good storytelling can really cut through that noise. It's also really like what makes us human at the end of the day. People gravitate towards stories. It's almost like built into us. It makes us feel something, and then feeling is really what drives us to do something.
Hmm.
Um, something that I tell myself every day is like, whether we're in the business of selling directly to consumers or directly to businesses, we're all just people, and it's just a matter of how many people you need to convince. And I think that people really respond to stories.
As the non-creative on this call,
I think you're very
yeah,
creative,
I'm
by the
creative
way.
more in like, an Excel spreadsheet sort of creativity. Creative
You're
pro
also a great writer,
Thank
Yeah,
you.
amazing,
Thank you.
amazing
and you
writer.
can read a room
Okay,
like no
well, I'll
other.
just keep going with this. I
And
like
you can
this. I like the direction
you
this has gone.
Yeah, what else?
you tell really great stories, like the
You know,
best.
okay, wait. Quick note on this before you ask your question. This is women in the workplace lifting each other up.
Yes, I love it.
This is what we need to be doing more of.
I'm into it. I'm into it.
Agree.
My question is actually though around storytelling. So if you could break down like, okay, I know that was a great story. What would you say are like the fundamental elements and you're like, "Yep, that one it was great."
Something really simple. I like have this goosebump test, I said before that it was like
The
I
goosebump.
watched that video and it gave me goosebumps. It's like something that makes you feel something,
Mm.
or something that makes you act,
Mhm.
change something, do something, tell someone. They're the best stories, because that's the goal, right?
I agree. I was telling someone I was interviewing a potential web partner earlier today, and I was telling him what it is we do. And it's so fun to tell people what we do in such a different way than how we describe it on the website or in other sales documents. That does make what we do more fun to humanize things a bit and like dig deep enough to identify that storyline that isn't AI generated, can't be written by just anybody, can't be owned by just anybody. I think that's kind of the sweet spot of like where the value of marketing and marketers come in handy, especially in this
Mm,
space because there's a lot of people saying a lot of the same things as each other.
yep. A lot of buzzwords. A
Yes, a
lot of
lot of buzzwords and
buzzwords.
not a lot of
Yeah.
thought going into the messaging really. No offense to the competitors. It's just a slight dig
I like
right
that you
there.
added that in there. So we followed this thread from the video that you watched, but that was, you know, a handful of years ago. So how do you keep that like creative spark, that like drive to keep being creative, to keep giving other people those goosebump moments?
I make the time to do it. So, like, something that I've realized is that, like, if creativity and storytelling is like a muscle, like, I think that if you don't use it, you lose it. And so Gillian knows this. Like, sometimes I can get into a project. I don't really need to be there, but I can dwell on the details. Like, oh, I don't like that word. Or what if we said it like this? And it probably drives the team insane. I don't do it because I want control. I do it because I genuinely love the process. Like, I want to be
Yeah.
involved. And if you don't stay involved, then I genuinely think that you lose it, right? You lose that ability. Some of my best thinking happens when I'm away from my computer or away from my phone. So I'm like in the shower or I'm cooking dinner or I'm going for a walk. I
Mhm.
try and like make space to do those things. That's when my best ideas and best talking points come to me and I grab my phone out and make a little note of it. But yeah, just make the time to do it.
I always say to people like that you have to count that time, that like going for a walk in the middle of the day, it feels like, I'm not being productive or whatever. But at the end of the day, especially when you're thinking about creative work, like you can't sit at a computer and make creativity happen. That's the surest way to make it not happen.
Right, like, creativity doesn't follow a schedule,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
It's like it doesn't like deadlines.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I'm totally with you on that. Like, step away from your computer,
Yes.
go outside, get some fresh air. Like, nothing breeds creativity better than
Yeah.
getting outside. So,
Touch some grass.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, okay, I wanna call this out for the doers and the leaders. So, Kelly, we and listeners who may have forgotten, we really like to make sure that we're speaking to this range of listeners so that folks can leave the conversations with actionable ways to improve, but not just improve themselves and how they show up at the workplace. How can they make a difference on those that they work with, those that look up to them? And one thing I want to emphasize that you spoke about was to kind of use it or lose it, right? Like get involved. Because something that stands out to me also as someone on your team, it makes me feel like you understand better how my time is used. And there's that just inherently builds this mutual trust that is really beneficial. And so when you're either a doer and you're lacking this feeling of trust, it's probably because your manager doesn't really realize what you're working on all day.
Mhm.
And then vice versa, as a leader, when you're feeling tension, you might just need to dig in a bit deeper and
Mhm.
understand what your team's up against and like make some suggestions about copy. And yeah, so it's just a valuable tidbit in terms of just working better together. Kelly, how do you, especially given time zones, majority of your team being in the US, you being in Sydney time zone, how do you feel like you can best support and build up your team in this such an async fashion to keep the creativity moving, make sure that they continue to work like a well-oiled machine, on these different time zones? I am speaking from experience. I feel like we've gotten into a really good rhythm. And so what would you say as a marketing leader has helped that?
You have to just trust your team and that you have the right people in the right roles. And just when we do connect, which is most days in my morning, your late afternoon, um, just making sure that we, yeah, okay, talk about the top priorities, talk about like any blockers that you have, anything that I can help you with, and then just continue that communication and that trust. Like, I trust that you know what you're doing, you know the right thing to do. Um, and I hope that the rest of the team feels that way too.
There's a balance that you're striking in, Kelly. Like, you want to get involved, and you get your hands dirty, and you're in, like, creating and like contributing and like physically like making some of the content, and you're also saying like, oh, but Gillian, you're good with like the strategy, and you're managing all of these pieces. How do you manage both and of those pieces?
I try to not get involved unless it's like something that's like really big, right? Like we're doing a big campaign, or we're doing some advertising, right? Some out of home advertising or something like that, that's like kind of high stakes or high investment. I'll always get involved. Not to the point where I'm like changing everything, but just peeking in, saying, how are we feeling about this? What direction are we going? And then business as usual. The team is just in such a great rhythm now that it just seems to be like go everything seems to be going smoothly. We're in such like a good rhythm. I just trust the team 100%. And I actually like, it sounds strange, but in the short amount of time that we do have, like in my mornings, I prioritize connecting personally over work stuff.
Yeah.
I really do. Like
Hmm.
I will take the entire 30 minutes or an hour. If it's an hour, I'll talk for 30 minutes about personal
Hmm.
things. Like and I honestly I don't care, because most of the work stuff can be done async. Like, yeah, we might need to chat through something for 5 minutes, but what I really value most is having a relationship with everyone that I work with,
Hmm.
and genuinely like enjoying the company of the people that I work with, and knowing how they're going, and like how's life, like what's going on, and just talking about personal things. And I think that that is so important, right? It's You have to enjoy what you're doing. You have to enjoy the people that you work with. Otherwise, honestly, work just sucks.
Yeah.
Like, it does. Like,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, I might only get half an hour or an hour to talk to you, Gillian, or someone else. But I'm like, before we get into work stuff, how are you?
Hmm.
Like, tell me something crazy that Nico did on
Yeah.
the weekend, right?
That would take more than a half hour. A lot of nature peeing.
We love it, right? It's like I live for that stuff. So
Well, that makes the hard times easier.
yeah,
And if you're working async, you really do need to be able to understand how to make business decisions together without having a conversation. And you can't, it's more fun to speak face to face about the personal stuff. So I definitely hear you there.
Well, I think we have a cool opportunity too to because it's rare that we have kind of both sides here. Like Gillian, how does that like fall out on you? Like how, when Kelly asks you about, what's happening and what's been going
Yeah.
on in your life, like, how does that result in your kind of like, you're the doer in this scenario?
So I'm the doer. I mean, it goes a long way. I mean, Kelly and I have a lot of rapport personally, I think. So, and both being mothers, it helps. And even when I was pregnant or postpartum, I mean, we went deep. And so it goes a long way. I think that trust really is so critical, and you can't make trust up. You can't fake it.
Mm,
So I'm a huge relationships person in general, and I also want to love my job, and that has to do a lot with the people, and
mm,
it just matters. And so, but I also think it takes people it takes building a team that feels that way too, in order for this all to work out. And so, Kelly, you could someday have a team member, or I could, that doesn't like to shoot the shit. And that wouldn't feel very good. I don't know if it would work out. But so no, it does. It builds the trust. I actually genuinely need that trust because of our time zones, really.
yeah,
Because there
yeah,
are often times when I can't run things by Kelly, and I'll make a call on something, but we have rapport and trust, and also because we have a personal relationship, if something comes up and we need to be real about something, it's not uncomfortable. It's just part of our work, and shaping what it is we're doing together. And knowing what's going on in one another's lives also goes such a long way. Like the hard stuff. Why might it be more important now than ever that you truly end your workday at 5? Like knowing those things so you can protect your team is so important.
yeah. You said a part about like building a team that you can have a good relationship with. Something that I said the other day was that I always hire for personality over skills.
Mhm.
Like, skills can be taught, personality can't,
Hmm.
And I just think personality has to come first. Like, you have to be able to enjoy working with this person, because when you enjoy working with the people, the work is better. The
Mhm.
work is great. You do really great things together. And not to say that, someone who's really skilled but maybe doesn't want to share things about their life is not going to be great. I'm sure they are. I just think for me, personality is way more important than than skills. And I'll work with someone, spend more time with someone to help them build their skills and develop them, if there's great rapport there.
We talked about like you can't force creativity, right? Like you can't just sit down at a blank screen and make it and make yourself be creative. And then there's the second thread of you can't force this trust either, like making the time and space for creativity and making time and space for trust. I think, like we often think of productivity and getting the work done as like the big rocks, like that's the stuff that really matters. But I think, through this conversation it seems so clear to me that the actual things are the space and the trust and the time. Like without those pieces, like kind of all of the rest of that stuff doesn't work as well.
And imagine if you were in a scenario where you were given something that was insanely challenging and quick turnaround and just hard and hell. And imagine if you couldn't tell the person that you work for or with how hard it is and how, like, taxing it is on you. That would be awful, and I
Mhm.
really believe that the only way to build that, like, road for someone to just have somewhere to go and just admit, like, "This is really hard. I know it's gonna be over. I just need you to know this is really hard," is by building that core relationship. I'd love to kind of let this transition more about motherhood and how that's kind of shaped the work that you do and being a leader. Curious what being a parent has taught you about being a leader in your work or vice versa.
It's tough. It's like parenting is the hardest job I've ever done, easily. Nothing is more difficult to me than parenting. I say this a lot and maybe I shouldn't, but for me right now, the phase of life that I'm in with having two small children, right? Like work almost feels like a break because I get to, talk to grown-ups and I get to have great conversations and tell stories. And so, although we do that a lot in parenting as well,
That's
it's
true.
not quite the same. But I think that, just what it's taught me about work is that, being a mum, life can be overwhelming. The days are really chaotic. And I remember reading something that really stuck with me, and it was pay attention to the glimmers. And I was like, glimmers, that's a funny word. But it was like, glimmers are the opposite of triggers. So as a
Mm.
parent, like, there's like little things that, your kid may do that like triggers you, right? And you can be on edge a lot of the day. And it's really easy to get like overwhelmed and into like a bad headspace. But then we all know as parents that there's like also these like really tiny moments of like little things that can just spark joy or give you like this overwhelming like feeling of love out of nowhere. And it's just like pay attention to those. Let yourself sit in that moment for a little longer. Like don't move on to the next thing. I'm sure there's something else you need to do, but just let yourself sit in that moment. Like don't brush past it. Enjoy that moment of like joy and of love. And I think it's like the same. I think the same thing can apply to work, right? It's like big things don't happen overnight, and it can feel frustrating when things aren't moving as quickly as you want them to move, right? Like, why isn't this happening? Like, why is it taking so long? And I think, like, just pay attention to like the small things, the small wins, the small like shifts in thinking. Um, a conversation that really sparked something. I think those little moments matter. So I've really learned to just pay attention to those moments at home and at work and just celebrate them and really just enjoy the process, I'd say.
Enjoy the process. I love that. And I feel like it's like if you're enjoying the process, let everyone know that you're enjoying the process in the in the meantime, because that just again kind of enhances that relationship.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think I prior to this job, I worked at another place when I became a parent for the first time and felt like the moment I found out I was pregnant, my superiors at that job felt like, well, you're just not going to be as good of a worker anymore, like because you're a parent. Like it just that was kind of a given. And I think I hope we've made a shift from there. But
Mm,
like given what you have just said, if I think there is so much to be gained. I learned a lot as a parent. I feel like I'm a better parent and a better like employee because I'm a parent, not worse.
When I knew I was having a second, I was like, how is this actually humanly possible? And people are just like, you expand. You actually literally physically expand, but your capabilities expand, your ability to do it both, all of it, and the jobs, we become really efficient.
yep.
We're to like we know we got to make a decision. Let's make a decision. There's not a lot of dilly dallying, and no, I think there's so much power to being a mother who is also in business. I want to be careful because I don't want to put down people without children either, because they're amazing. To the person that's thought that you weren't going to be as good at your job, that's who I'm talking to right now.
Mhm.
I always say that parents rise, like you always rise to the
Mm.
occasion. I feel like, you get sharper because you have, you're like, well, I've got like these deadlines at work and I have this other like little being who is like a walking deadline.
You need to keep them alive,
Yeah.
right? Like,
And I also really need them to go to bed on
Yeah.
time so that I can take 1 hour of time for myself.
yes, that 1 hour,
That
isn't
1
it? Like
hour.
the best hour of the
Yes.
day.
Yes. How do you spend your 1 hour, Kelly?
Oh, I almost feel guilty admitting it, but
Don't you know that you know who you're talking to?
so I am not relaxed unless I'm horizontal. Like I have to be laying down. I can't be sitting up with my feet up. I have to be laying down. My couch is like my favorite place in the world when like this hour comes and I'm like thinking about the couch. I'm like I need to be horizontal. And honestly, I just lay there and I just rest. It's just the best
Are
thing
you
ever.
scrolling?
Usually, I'm watching the news, like so what's happening in the world? I am a bit of a news buff. I like to know what's happening around the world, and so, yeah, I watch the news. I sometimes I do doom scroll. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll admit it.
Cool.
I can
Alright.
go down a rabbit hole.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So you're getting all the TikTok recipes and like protein, cottage cheese recipes. And I'd love to just kind of bring us back for the tail end of our conversation, back to creativity. I'd love to talk more about what our listeners can do this week to reframe how they lead or show up at work creatively. And remember, we're trying to leave takeaways for the doers and the leaders. So, what's something our listeners can do this week, right now, to reframe how they lead or show up at work creatively?
I had an old boss say something years ago, really stuck with me. He said, "Be uncomfortable." He said it quite aggressively too. At the time, I had a negative reaction to it, and I think, a lot of people did, and I can see why people might have a negative reaction to it, and I get it. Um, but real growth doesn't happen when we're comfortable. So if you're chasing something big, whether it's like trying to think of a creative idea or you want a promotion or you want to, make some kind of impact at work, it's going to feel uncomfortable sometimes. And I would say don't stop. Don't stop there. That's a sign that you're growing. So do something this week that makes you feel a little uncomfortable.
Oh, Kelly, I love that advice. I say it to my son all the time. I'm always say, if you're not uncomfortable, you're not trying. I say it on the ski hill with him when he's like angry about stuff, but then it also relates so much to work. If everyone feels comfortable with the work that they're seeing, then we're not coming up with something that they haven't seen before. We're not breaking through. We're not being as creative as we should. If they are iffy about it and uncomfortable, then we are doing the right thing. It relates, like you said, to personal growth 100%.
Mm,
It's so literal too. I mean, if you're lifting weights, the only way to get stronger is discomfort.
mhm,
But it also, I think, speaks to the output.
mhm.
If what you're doing makes people feel uncomfortable, then I truly think that's the right way to go.
And you know what? I've never used it with my 5-year-old, and I'm going to start
Yeah.
using it with my 5-year-old because she's always uncomfortable.
Hmm.
I'm like, "This is good.
Yes.
You should be uncomfortable.
Yes.
You're learning, you're growing, you're getting better."
No, if you're not uncomfortable, you're not trying.
Yeah.
That's my version, at least.
Yeah. I love it.
I'll ask one last question. Let's say someone like yourself is, you're up against a deadline. You've got to make, you've got to make this thing. What would you say they should do in the next 5 minutes to like get their creative juices going?
Step away from the laptop.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna say that. Touch grass.
Yep, touch grass. Step away from the laptop, go outside. Hopefully, the sun is shining. I'm going to take it a step further. Take off your shoes, be barefoot in the grass, in the sun, and just sit there or stand there for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it takes. Try not to think about work. Think about the environment around you. Pay attention to the small things. Pay attention to the way that the sun is shining on through the trees or something like that. Like something just so basic that you see every day but you don't really notice. Like notice those things, just and then come back to it, right? When you feel like you're ready. But I think that, creativity doesn't we said this before, but it doesn't happen on a deadline. You can't force it. So break break the pattern, step outside and just give yourself some time to think about other things and then come back to it.
That's awesome. This was such a pleasure. Thank you so much, Kelly, for being here. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Futureworks. If today's conversation sparks something in you, please hit subscribe and follow along as we continue to explore innovation and imagination in the workplace. We will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly.
Bye.